Okay, good morning everyone. Today we are going to continue with the entropy part. We are going to see one numerical, and after that we are going to begin with the unit number 5, that is availability. So let's go through the last numerical. Note down the statement. One kg of ice is exposed to the atmosphere. 1 kg of ice is exposed to the atmosphere at 25 degrees Celsius. Full stop. The ice melts and comes to equilibrium. The ice melts and comes to equilibrium full stop. Determine first one, entropy increase of the universe. Entropy increase of the universe, full stop. Take Cp of ice. Cp stands for specific heat. Specific heat of ice 2.093 kilojoules per kg Kelvin, and LFU, latent heat of fusion, is equal to 333.33 kilojoules per kg. Okay, so we need to solve this numerical. Okay, so let's go through the statement and try to figure out what has been given as input data and what we need to find or calculate. So there is 1 kg of ice. So suppose there is a block of 1 kg ice and its temperature is, okay, I forgot to mention that one. 1 kg of ice, correct the statement, at -5 degrees Celsius. 1 kg of ice at -5 degrees Celsius. Everything else is same. So its temperature is -5 degrees Celsius. Okay. And now that ice has got exposed to atmosphere, which is at 25 degrees Celsius. So suppose it has been kept in open atmosphere whose temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. So what will happen? The temperature of ice is -5, temperature of atmosphere is 25 degrees Celsius. So it is obvious that this ice will start melting and finally it will get converted into water at 25 degrees Celsius. That will be the final stage, right? That is when this ice and open atmosphere, those two things has got reached equilibrium condition, right? So at that equilibrium condition, this ice will be having converted into water and temperature of that water will be 25 degrees Celsius. That is equal to atmospheric temperature. And for this whole chain, we need to find delta S universe. Okay. For that one, they have given specific heat of ice is equal to 2.093 kilojoules per kg Kelvin and latent heat of fusion is 333.33 kilojoules per kg. Okay. So before proceeding further, can any one of you tell me what is this latent heat of fusion? Ankit, can you tell me what is meant by latent heat of fusion?
It's the heat used up in converting ice to water.
Very good. Ice to water or vice versa, water to ice. That is solid to liquid phase change. And heat involved in that phase change is the latent heat of fusion, whether solid to liquid or liquid to solid. Very good. So now to calculate this entropy change for the universe, there are three stages. What are those three stages? Stage 1. Stage 1 is there is ice at -5 degrees Celsius. Okay. So when it is exposed to atmosphere at 25 degrees Celsius, first its temperature is going to start decreasing and it will become 0 degrees Celsius. Initial temperature is -5. We know that from -5 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius, it is going to remain ice. It will not convert into water, right? So in ice stage, its temperature is going to increase from -5 to 0 degrees Celsius. So that will be stage 1. Second, stage 2. What will happen in stage 2? At 0 degrees Celsius, the ice will get converted into water. The temperature will remain 0 degrees Celsius and there will be a phase change. The ice will start melting at 0 degrees Celsius. It will get converted into water at 0 degrees Celsius itself. So that will be stage 2. And at stage 3, the water will start increasing its temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. Okay, so initially at ice stage, -5 to 0 degrees Celsius temperature increase. At 0 degrees Celsius, conversion of ice into water, solid to liquid. And at stage 3, that increase of temperature of that water from 0 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. So for this stage 1, there will be delta S for water or ice and delta S for surrounding also, right? Similarly, for stage 2 also, there will be delta S for water and delta S for surrounding. Stage 3 also, delta S water and delta S surrounding. And you need to add those three. Then you will get delta S for universe. Okay, is that clear to everyone or I need to explain it again? I need confirmation from somebody so that I can proceed further. Is that fine with each one of you?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else except Pratik? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll take that as you all of you have got this concept. Okay, so now let's solve and find this entropy change for water as well as surrounding. Now you have choice to do it in stages, or you can add those three stages in single stage itself. Okay, so let's start with the surrounding. Delta S, not surrounding, delta S for ice or water. Let's start with the water and then we'll solve it for the surrounding. So first one, delta S1 for ice from minus 5 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. That will be stage 1. So relation will be delta S1 is equal to mass of ice into specific heat of ice ln of T final by T initial. That will be the relation. Okay. Put the values. Mass is 1 kg. Specific heat is 2.093 ln of T final by T initial. Final temperature is 0 degrees Celsius. Initial temperature is minus 5. So conversion will be 273 Kelvin and minus 5 is 268 Kelvin. Is that fine, Pradeep?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So calculate this one and let me know the delta S1. 1 into 2.093 ln of 273 by 268. The answer will be kilojoules per Kelvin.
Zero 0.038.
0.038. This is delta S1. Delta S2 for ice to water at 0 degrees Celsius. That is when that phase change is going to occur at 0 degrees Celsius. So delta S2 is equal to the amount of heat involved in phase change is latent heat of fusion multiplied by mass of ice divided by temperature of that phase change. Now this whole thing is going to occur at 0 degrees Celsius. Latent heat of fusion is 333.33 multiplied by mass of ice is 1 kg and the temperature is 273 Kelvin. So on solving this one, you will get delta S2, that is again in kilojoules per Kelvin.
1.22.
1.2209 or 1.22 is also fine. Similarly, delta S3, that is for water 0 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. So mass of water, specific heat of water, ln of T final by T initial. Put the values, mass is same. Now specific heat will be different. For ice, it is going to be different. And for water, they haven't given because water is the standard material and we are supposed to remember that value. Value is 4.187. Ln of final temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, that is 298 Kelvin, and initial is 273 Kelvin, that is 0 degrees Celsius. Put the values and let me know the delta S3. kilojoules per Kelvin.
0.3668.
0.3668 kilojoules per Kelvin. Now this thing we have calculated for ice and water. Similarly, we need to calculate for delta S surrounding. Okay, and that thing finally will help us to get the delta S universe. Okay, so let's find this delta S surrounding. Now to calculate that delta S surrounding, as delta S is equal to mCp ln of T final by T initial. This is one of the relation that we can use, but this relation can be used when there is difference in temperature, or if there is change in temperature, then we can use this relation. But in case of source, reservoir or surrounding, the temperature is not going to change. Temperature is always going to remain constant, and for that one relation is Q by T. Right? This one we know. So now we need to use this relation. So how to get this relation now? Delta S surrounding is equal to there will be Q1, Q2, Q3 divided by temperature of the atmosphere. The temperature of atmosphere is 298. But this Q1, Q2, Q3, now what we need to find as Q1, Q2 and Q3. So what is that Q1, Q2 and Q3? We have seen 3 stages over here. First stage, increase of temperature of ice from -5 to 0. During this temperature increase, the specific heat is 2.093. So the amount of heat acceptance by that ice will be something different. So that heat involved, let's consider that one as Q1. At stage 2, that is when ice is going to melt, get converted into water, when the temperature is going to remain constant at 0 degrees Celsius. So for that one, the heat involved is nothing but latent heat of fusion multiplied by mass of the substance, and that is going to be Q2. Okay, and third one, when ice has got converted into water, but temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, and after that its temperature will start increasing. So that will be Q3. Now we need to find this Q1, Q2 and Q3, and if you compare this system and surrounding, this ice is now our system and surrounded atmosphere at 25 degrees Celsius is the surrounding. Now ice is going to accept the heat and surrounding is going to lose the heat. So entropy change for ice is positive, whereas entropy change for surrounding is going to be negative because it is going to lose the heat. So this relation Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 will be minus. Addition of those 3 will be there, but the whole term will be considered negative because atmosphere is going to lose the heat. So now let's calculate this Q1, Q2 and Q3 over here. So delta S surrounding is equal to minus of, first one is amount of heat absorbed by ice in solid stage for increase in temperature from -5 to 0. That will be stage 1. So mass of ice multiplied by specific heat of ice and T higher minus T lower. Whenever you are calculating heat interaction or heat transfer, you need to always consider higher minus lower. So this will be Q1 plus latent heat of fusion multiplied by mass of ice. This will be Q2 plus third one, mass of water, specific heat of water multiplied by T higher minus T lower, that is for the water. I will close the square bracket over here, divide by 298. So let's put the values now. Mass of ice 1 multiplied by 2 point, what is the specific heat of ice? 2.093 into higher minus lower, so 273 minus 268, that is for ice. So this will be Q1 plus 333.33 multiplied by 1, because 1 kg of ice is there and latent heat of fusion is 333.33. So this will be Q2 plus third one, mass of water 1, specific heat 4.187, and temperature change is 298 minus 273. Right? Final temperature is 298 and initial temperature 0 degrees Celsius, that is 273. Close the square bracket, divide by 298, and this whole thing will be negative. So solve this one and let me know the delta S surrounding.
Minus 1.504.
Minus 1.504 divided by 298. Okay, I also have got the same answer. 1.5033 minus 1.5033, and as it is entropy change, unit will be kilojoules per Kelvin, because all the terms are in kilojoules. So this is now delta S for the surrounding. So now delta S universe is equal to, now before that, have we calculated or added the delta S1 to S3 for system, that is ice? No, we haven't done that one. So delta S universe will be equal to delta S ice or water plus delta S surrounding. So is equal to 0.0386 plus 1.2209 plus 0.3668, that is delta S for ice plus water, plus delta S for surrounding is minus 1.5033. And when you add those two things, delta S universe is equal to, the answer has to be 0.1214 kilojoules per Kelvin. See if all of you have got the same answer, and confirm in the chat window, or you can unmute and let me know the answer. 0.123. Okay, that is also fine, Pratik. Anybody else? 0.1227. Okay, that is also fine. The next unit that we are going to start with the availability. As I mentioned earlier, this is further expansion of the unit number 4, that is entropy. It is based on entropy only, but it has got some application viewpoint, calculating the available and unavailable energy. So we are going to talk about that, what is unavailable energy, what is mean by available energy, how to calculate that one, and how it is going to be beneficial, or the purpose behind studying all these things that we are going to talk about. So before begin, the objectives, that why this unit is there for us and how it is going to help us. Okay. So the first objective is you will be able to differentiate between available and unavailable energy. So once you have got to know that what is mean by available energy and what is mean by unavailable energy, then you can easily differentiate between those two. Next one is discuss the term quality of energy. Now actually we have overlooked this term, what is mean by quality of energy, while beginning with the unit number 2. Not unit number 2, unit number 3, that is second law of thermodynamics. Now we know that the first law is called as law of conservation of energy, right? But we know that energy can be conserved only in the form of quantity and not in the form of quality. Whenever you convert one form of energy into another form, there is going to be reduction in the quality of energy. Reduction in the quality of energy in the sense, if you convert one form of energy into another, you will get certain amount of efficiency, and you further want to convert that energy into some other form, you will never going to get that efficiency again. Why? Because there is going to be involvement of what is going to be involved in this energy conversion. There is going to be involvement of disorder, right? We have discussed this one in the entropy and disorder. Whenever you convert one form to another, there is going to be increase in disorder, or the things in the universe are always going to change itself from order to disorder, or lowest entropy to highest entropy, that we know, right? So there is going to be increase in entropy, so there is going to be a reduction in possibility of conversion of that energy into useful work. And if there is going to be a reduction in possibility of conversion of energy into work, then obviously quality of energy is going to be decreased. So that we are going to see in details in this unit. The next one is law of degradation of energy. Now, as we know, the first law is law of conservation of energy, whereas second law of thermodynamics is the law of degradation of energy. Because first one says that energy is always going to be get conserved, but second law states that yes, energy can always going to be conserved, but in the form of quantity only and not in the form of quality. So in terms of quality, the energy is always going to degrade, and this has been defined by second law of thermodynamics. So second law is also called as law of degradation of energy. Okay, then we are going to derive the relation for maximum work in reversible and irreversible process also. Now, why we need to derive this or why we need to find maximum work and all? you will come to know very soon, because possibility of conversion of energy into useful work is nothing but the availability. So if you can calculate this maximum work, you can differentiate between available and unavailable energy. The next one is you will be able to elaborate the term dead state. Now, what is meant by dead state that we are going to talk? This is quite important term or important concept, and that we are going to discuss in details. Then you will be able to differentiate between availability in steady flow and non-flow process. Now we have seen non-flow processes in first law of thermodynamics. We have seen steady flow processes in second law of thermodynamics. We have seen various devices working on the steady flow processes and non-flow processes as well. We have applied first and second law to those processes, and we have solved numericals also based on that one. So that we are going to do again for availability and unavailability. And last thing that we are going to talk about is second law, efficiency. Now we know the efficiency. Efficiency is nothing but output to the input. Or if you are providing some energy to a system and getting something done, the ratio of that output from that system to the input that you have provided is nothing but the efficiency. That is general definition. Now we have applied this concept to heat engine to find the thermal efficiency of that heat engine. We applied this concept to refrigerator and heat pump also, but instead of efficiency, we use something different over there, and that relation is coefficient of performance. But now, what is meant by second law efficiency now that we are going to discuss in details. So these are the objectives of the unit, this unit, and that you are supposed to cope with at the end of this unit. So let's begin with the introduction. What is meant by unavailable and available energy. So we know that let me get the pen. Okay. Suppose there is an engine that is working between source at temperature T1 and sink at temperature T2. It is producing work W. It is accepting heat Q1 from the source and rejecting heat Q2 to a sink, right? So the total input to the system is nothing but this Q1. So when you provide this Q1 as an input to the system, it will produce some work, and additionally, it is supposed to reject some heat to a low temperature sink, that is Q2, right? We know that we cannot eliminate this term Q2. If you eliminate this term Q2, then Q1 will become equal to W, and in that case, efficiency of the system will become 100%. And this is going to be violation of second law of thermodynamics, right? Because as long as this you want this engine to work, the Q2 can never be zero. The Q2 is always going to be a non-zero quantity. We always need to reject some heat to a low temperature sink. And because of that one, we cannot eliminate this Q2 term, and it is going to be there. Okay. Now, let me clear this. Now, if I try to relate those two things, if Q1 is the heat input to the system and I'm getting output W plus Q2, or Q1 is energy entering the system, whereas W and Q2 are the energies going out of the system, right? So this Q1 is always going to be equivalent to W plus Q2, or addition of those two. Now, the portion of Q1 that can be converted into W. W is nothing but the useful work, right? So the portion of Q1 that could be converted into W is nothing but available part, because that is the energy that you can convert into useful work. Whereas you need to reject some heat to low temperature sink that we call Q2. This energy is going to be energy lost by the system. We cannot convert this into W, right? So as it is lost by the system, we cannot use this energy. This energy is called as unavailable part. So the total energy input to the system Q1 is going to have available part as well as unavailable part. Available part is nothing but the energy or the portion of Q1 that can be converted into W. That will be available part, and some part of this Q1 has to be rejected to atmosphere in the form of Q2, and that part is called as unavailable part. Okay, so we can say the Q1 will be addition of available energy plus unavailable energy. It is going to be addition of those two. Okay, now here we know that if I consider a system, this is system and it is surrounded by this atmosphere. Let's call this one as surrounding, and this is our system. Now, if system has got pressure P1 and temperature T1, and surrounding has got pressure P0 and temperature T0. So as long as this P1 is greater than P0, I can use this higher pressure of the system to get some work done or get some output from the system. Similarly, as long as the T1, that is temperature of system, is greater than temperature of atmosphere T0, I can provide this excess temperature to some cyclic device and obtain some work output from that device. Okay, so I can get work output from the system as long as its temperature and pressure is greater than atmosphere. But I know that as I start producing work output, this P1 and T1 is going to start decreasing, right? As I'm getting work output from the system, if I'm using this pressure difference to produce some work output, once I have produced some work, the pressure will start decreasing. Same thing will happen with the temperature also. That temperature will also start decreasing, right? So till what condition I can have this work output? As long as this P1 is greater than P0 and this T1 is greater than T0. But I know that this P1 is going to start decrease and this T1 is also going to start decrease. And there will one instance at which this P1 will become P0 and this T1 will become T0, because P1 has started decreasing, T1 also has started decreasing, and that decrease will continue till you can keep extracting work from the system, and that extraction is possible as long as P1 is greater than P0, T1 is greater than T0. But there will be one instant when this P1 is going to be equal to P0 and T1 is going to be equal to T0, and that condition is called as equilibrium condition. right? When system and surrounding has same condition or same properties, and that situation is called as equilibrium condition. And when that equilibrium condition has reached, the work production will stop. You cannot extract work from the system, and that system, that condition, when system and surrounding are in equilibrium state, that state is called as dead state. Is that fine with everyone? If anybody has got any query, let me know so that I will explain it again. Is that fine with everyone?
Sir, repeat.
Pratik, you want me to repeat this again?
The last point, equilibrium point.
Dead states are.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'll repeat that one. Before that, let me erase all the things that I have written over here. Okay. So what I just said, I was explaining dead state. So basically, dead state is a situation when, suppose there is one system that has been placed in a surrounding. So this is our surrounding and this is our system. So dead state in the sense, a situation of this system, a situation of system which makes impossible to extract work from that system, right? So if there is some system that has got some pressure and temperature potential, then I can use that pressure and temperature potential to have useful work output from the system. But when that system and surrounding has attended a equilibrium condition or equilibrium state, it means now system's pressure temperature is same as that of surrounding pressure and temperature, right? And if this pressure and temperature of system and surrounding is same, I cannot transfer energy from system to surrounding or surrounding to system. That interaction will stop. And in such a condition, as there isn't any energy interaction between system and surrounding, that state is nothing but the dead state. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, available energy refer to a cycle. So now we know what is available energy and what is unavailable energy. Available energy is the energy or part of energy that we can convert into useful work, that is available. And the energy that we cannot convert into useful work, that we need to release to the atmosphere or lose to the atmosphere, that energy is called as unavailable energy. Okay, so now we are going to apply this concept to a cycle. Now suppose there is a heat engine. The same diagram I am going to explain again. It is taking heat from a source having temperature T1 and rejecting heat to a sink having temperature T2. It is taking heat Q1 from the source and rejecting heat Q2 to the sink. And part of this Q1 is going to be converted into work output, and some part of the same heat Q1 is going to rejected to sink in the form of Q2. Now here I know that Q1 is energy entering the system, W going out of the system, Q2 going out of the system. So this Q1 is addition of Q2 plus W, that I know, right? Now here the W max or the W is the portion of total heat supplied Q1 which is useful, and that is nothing but the available energy. That is available energy. Whereas this Q2 is also part of the same Q1 that is going to be unused, that is supposed to rejected to low temperature sink, or in most of the cases atmosphere, and that is going to be unused. So that part is called as unavailable energy, denoted by UE. Available stands for, AE stands for available energy, UE stands for unavailable energy. Okay, so this W max is nothing but the available energy, and Q2 is nothing but the unavailable energy. Now, same thing I have written over here. Q1 will be the addition of available energy plus unavailable energy. Available energy in the sense W, and unavailable energy in the sense Q2. So W max is equal to available energy. I am trying to derive relation for available energy. So W max, that is available energy, is equal to, I have rearranged the equation Q1 is equal to AE plus UE. So now AE is equal to Q1 minus UE. Okay. Now, if I write the efficiency relation for same engine, efficiency, there are two relations. N is equal to W by Q1, or Q1 minus Q2 by Q1, or this Q1 and Q2 are going to be proportional to T1 and T2. So another relation will be T1, sorry, not plus, T1 minus T2 by T1. Or even we can simplify this term and you will get 1 minus T2 by T1, right? All those relations are there. Out of all those relations, I am going to use this relation, 1 minus T2 by T1. So N reversible will be equal to 1 minus T2 by T1. Now, in this case, if I want to increase the efficiency, I have two choices. If you look over here, 1 minus T2 by T1. So if I want to increase the efficiency, I will have two choices, either increase the value of T1 or decrease the value of T2. By both the ways, I can increase the efficiency, right? But increasing T1 will not be a feasible choice, because we have discussed this one earlier. There will be some limitations based on the material properties, the materials that are going to be used for the construction of those devices, and depending upon their capacities of those materials, the maximum T1 will have limited value. So we cannot increase T1. So what will be the another choice? Decreasing the T2. So if you decrease the value of T2 further, we can increase the efficiency. That will be the another choice. So suppose if this heat engine is working in open atmosphere, okay, this heat engine is working in open atmosphere. So what could be the lowest value of this T2? The atmospheric temperature, right? And let's consider that atmospheric temperature as T0. So to have that maximum efficiency, I can reduce the temperature of sink to a lowest possible temperature, that is T0, and that is nothing but the temperature of atmosphere. So here I have replaced that T2 with T0 now, because I want to maximize the efficiency. So Nmax is equal to 1 minus T0 by T1. This is the efficiency relation. And if I want to write the same relation for W max or available energy, that will become 1 minus T0 by T1, that is efficiency, into Q1. Because we know that efficiency is equal to W by Q1. This relation we know. So W will be equal to N into Q1. So N is nothing but 1 minus T0 by T1 into Q1. That one we have used over here. So that will be the relation for maximum work. Now let's consider there is a process Lm changing from L to M, and that has been plotted on temperature entropy diagram. Now we know that in case of temperature entropy diagram, area under the curve represent change in entropy. Right? Whenever you have drawn temperature entropy diagram, area under the curve always gives us change in entropy. Just like PV diagram, if you have plotted PV diagram and there is some process, the area under the curve is nothing but the work transfer. But in case of entropy TS diagram or entropy temperature entropy diagram, area under the curve is change in entropy. Okay. So let's consider in this diagram, there is one segment at temperature T1, and at that temperature T1, dQ1 is the total heat entering the system, and it is rejecting heat at temperature T0, that is atmospheric temperature. Okay, so for this process L to M, if I want to find work transfer, dW max will be equal to T1 minus T0 by T1 into dQ1, because T1 is the temperature at which heat is entering the system and T0 is the temperature at which heat is leaving the system. So dW max is equal to T1 minus T0 by T1 multiplied by dQ1. Now this T1 minus T0 by T1 and dQ1, the product between those two, you will get dQ1 minus T0 by T1 into dQ1. We have taken T1 common, so you will get 1 minus T0 by T1 multiplied by dQ1. And when you multiply the dQ1 into the bracket, you will get this value, dQ1 minus T0 by T1 into dQ1. Okay. Now this thing we have got for this small segment. Okay, this small segment. And if I want to find this W for whole process Lm, what I have to do? I have to integrate this one between the limit L to M. So that will be now for the whole process. So that's what I have done over here. dW max L to M is equal to dQ1 L to M minus T0 by T1 dQ1 L to M. The same equation is there. I have applied integration within the limit L to M. Now here on solving this one, integration L to M dW max, I will get total work done during the process. This dQ1 L to M, I will get heat transfer during the whole process. And over here, this T0 I have taken out of the integration, and now I will get relation L to M dQ1 by T1. And I know that dQ1 by T1 is nothing but delta S. Right? So delta S, or on solving this integration, I will get this relation Sm minus Sl, that is upper limit minus lower limit, Sm minus Sl, and this T0 will remain as it is. So I will get the equation W max is equal to QLm minus T0 into Sm minus Sl. Now in this equation, I know that this W max is nothing but the available energy, whereas this T0 into Sm minus Sl is nothing but the unavailable energy. Let me erase the ink. Okay, so this dW max is nothing but available energy. This Q is the energy supplied to the system, and this is nothing but the unavailable energy, because that is the energy going to be lost by the system to a low temperature sink or the surrounding. So available energy is nothing but total work transfer, whereas unavailable energy is the product of T0 into Sm minus Sl. Now what is this T0? T0 is the lowest temperature that we have taken to have maximum efficiency, right? And Sm minus Sl is the change in entropy during the process L to M. Sm, that is final entropy, minus Sl, that is initial entropy. So unavailable energy is the product of lowest temperature of heat rejection. Unavailable energy is the product of lowest temperature of heat reduction, that is T0, and change in entropy during the process, that is Sm minus Sl. Let me write it again. Unavailable energy is the product of T0 into Sm minus Sl. Okay. So we are going to solve numericals based on this one, but before that you need to remember that one. Unavailable energy is the product of lowest temperature of heat reduction multiplied by change in entropy during the process. The same thing we have plotted over here. You can compare this graph with the previous graph. This diagram and this diagram, both are same. Okay. Now, in this diagram, this shaded region indicates the unavailable energy, because this is the atmospheric temperature at which dQ2 will be going out of the system. Here, dQ1 or Q1 will be the entering the system, and there will have some work production and some energy we need to reject. Now from this diagram, if I increase the value of T0 or decrease the value of T0, what will happen? QLM is the total energy supplied, W is the work produced, and Q2 or dQ2 is the heat rejected. Now this dQ2 or heat rejected is T0 into Sm minus Sl, or T0 into delta S. This delta S, you just don't worry. What I am asking about this T0, if I increase the value of T0, what will happen? If I decrease the value of T0, what will happen?
When T0 increased, unavailable energy will increase.
Yes, Pratik, what will happen?
Unavailable energy will increase.
Unavailable energy will increase. Very good. Let me get the pen. Okay. W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. And this Q2 is nothing but T0 into delta S. So if I increase the T0, this whole thing will increase. If I decrease the T0, this whole thing will decrease. So this value will increase with increase in temperature, and this value will decrease with decrease in temperature. And smaller the value, Q1 will be more or work produced will be more. Okay. So if you decrease this T0, available energy will increase. If you increase the T0, available energy will decrease, or unavailable energy will increase with T0, unavailable energy will decrease with T0. Is that fine with everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me clear everything. Next thing is quality of the energy. Actually, we have discussed this one. We just need to put it in the words. What is meant by quality of energy? We know that, or let me take one example so that you can have better understanding of this one. Suppose there is one system at 100 degrees Celsius and there is another system at 50 degrees Celsius. Okay. If I add 10 kilojoules of heat at 100 degrees Celsius, 10 kilojoules of heat at 50 degrees Celsius, and I want to get some work output, W1 and W2. Which one will be larger, W1 or W2?
W1.
W1, very good. Now, if I take delta S1 and delta S2, which one will be larger and small? Which one will be smaller?
S1 smaller.
Delta S1 will be smaller, delta S2 will be larger. Very good. So I know that whenever I add or subtract heat at higher temperature, there will be smaller increase or decrease in entropy. Whereas if that same heat interaction is being done at lower temperature, there will be higher increase or decrease in entropy, because the relation is Q by T. Those two things are going to be reciprocal to each other, right? So heat addition at higher temperature, less increase in entropy. Heat addition at lower temperature, more increase in entropy. Whereas heat addition at higher temperature, low increase in entropy, but more amount of work that can be obtained. And reverse to that, if heat is added at lower temperature, there will be more increase in entropy, but work produced will be less. So entropy and work produced are reciprocal to each other, right? So if I want to compare this one now, suppose at 100 degrees Celsius and at 50 degrees Celsius, if I lose 10 kilojoules of heat at 100 degrees Celsius and if I lose same 10 kilojoules of heat at 50 degrees Celsius, which loss is more severe or which loss is bigger?
100 degrees Celsius.
At 100 degrees Celsius, right? I'm losing same amount of energy in both the cases, but the first case I'm losing energy at 100 degrees Celsius. Second case I'm losing energy at 50 degrees Celsius. And I know that with same amount of energy at 100 degrees Celsius, I can have more work produced compared to work produced at 50 degrees Celsius. And if I'm losing this energy at 100 degrees Celsius, means if I compare this W that could have obtained from that system, the loss will be more at 100 degrees Celsius, right? So losing energy at higher temperature compared to losing energy at lower temperature is now different. But if I say that according to first law, energy is going to conserved by the system. The amount is same, 10 kilojoule, 10 kilojoule, right? But still, if I compare the work produced, I'm getting different things. So the energy is going to be conserved in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality, it is not going to be conserved. Right? Because here I know that if I lose some heat at higher temperature and same heat at lower temperature, losing heat at higher temperature is going to cause more